Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Boba Fett is coming back, guys, and he's going to be bringing more respect to the criminal underground. Now, judging from what we've seen of Boba Fett in The Mandalorian and also in the trailer for the new TV series, he's going to be spending a lot of time consolidating Jabba the Hutt's former holdings in Hutt space and in the Outer Rim. There are also some hints that Boba Fett will be going up against the populist criminal front known as the Crimson Dawn, now led by Qi'ra. This will really tie this new series nicely into some of the other existing content created by Disney in the last few years. But I've always seen the introduction of this new specific Boba Fett related TV show as a great way to reintroduce one of the most interesting locations in all of Star Wars, the Coruscant Underworld. Now, we've done extensive videos about what the Coruscant Underworld is, including going through what is actually on the various levels we know about. You can check out that video if you want more information. But for those of you who don't know, Coruscant is the center and capital of the Old Republic, and it's a Euseminopolis. This means the entire world is covered by a single city. There's so much construction that very little of the original surface of the planet is actually exposed. The average depth of this worldwide city is over a mile, and there are well over 5,000 different levels. Naturally, the deeper you go on Coruscant, the more chaotic and hectic things are, and the less you'll see the Coruscanti government's influence and, of course, security forces. They say people who were born on the lower levels of Coruscant don't even know if the sky exists. I mean, that's how crazy the city is. Ever since I was a kid, I've always been fascinated with these type of dystopian cities that just overwhelm you and allow you to get lost in endless exploration and adventure. Some of you guys might remember the original Blade Runner and that one scene in the noodle bar, very similar vibe. I also remember playing games like the original KOTOR and going to the Undercity of Taurus and being so immersed in the world building and possibilities that city presented. And then more recent times, I remember playing Deus Ex Human Revolution and once again diving deep into these vertical urban playgrounds. See, what makes these places so enticing is just the sheer sense of being overwhelmed and how extreme the environment is. In almost any direction you can go, and there's things to see. I mean, science fiction is a thought exercise in what's possible, and as humans, we naturally look at extremes. This is why it's common in this genre to see extreme nature. Massive waves on ocean planets, massive deserts and sand dunes on Tatooine and Arrakis, and massive trees and forests on the moon of Endor. The megacities we see in science fiction like Coruscant are just an extension of that human desire for extreme things. It's New York, London, and Tokyo times 1,000. The sheer amount of things to do here and the sheer amount of life inhabiting these places makes it a perfect place for a sci-fi adventure. So let's take a look at some real-world reasons why the Book of Boba Fett should feature the Coruscant Underworld. Right around the time George Lucas was about to sell Disney Star Wars, he was actually working on this immense TV project called Star Wars Underworld and a highly anticipated tie-in video game known as 1313, after the infamous level 1313 on Coruscant where nothing good happens and people get their organs stolen from them. George Lucas might struggle when it comes to creating dialogue and maybe hiring actors, but when it comes to world building, there's no one really like him. Star Wars was never just a story about the Skywalkers. It's an entire galaxy with amazing things to see, and George Lucas was sort of like our travel guide, and Coruscant would have been the ultimate destination. Star Wars Underworld was extremely ambitious from the very beginning. In true George Lucas fashion, he developed a huge writing team and basically gave them free rein to come up with any idea that they could think about. He decided that the production stuff he would figure out later. George Lucas at the time wanted to produce the Underworld TV series with a normal TV budget, but with cinema quality visuals and CGI. They would basically save a lot of money on production costs by using cutting-edge video production technology. Now, this was a decade before The Mandalorian came out, and George Lucas was already envisioning what stagecraft would eventually be. Stagecraft is the technology being used in The Mandalorian. It's basically giant screens projecting the background in real time on set so that actors feel like they're actually on location. And more importantly, there's no compositing the footage in post like you would on a green screen with motion cap technology. In total, Lucas wanted 100 hours of content that would span between Episode 3 and Episode 4. It's also said that the tone was supposed to be like Deadwood in space, and it would also be like the godfather of the Star Wars franchise, which is also what the Book of Boba Fett has been called by some reviewers. Even more interesting was the fact that George Lucas promised to bring plenty of new characters and many fan favorite characters from the expanded universe into this TV show. Lucas also described this TV show as a bit bare bones and very action heavy, which is a perfect description of The Mandalorian. You see, these ideas get recycled over and over again. George Lucas envisioned many things, and he predicted that the advances in technology would make feature films much cheaper to make, and it would also make TV shows a lot higher quality, and these things definitely have come true in the last, 5 or 6 years. Ultimately, Lucas had 50 hours of content prepared, but the technology wasn't really ready, and the anticipated budget was far too high. Star Wars 1313 was also canceled and shelved. It was a pretty big disaster for Star Wars fans at the time. Which is why now it's a perfect time for Filoni and Favreau to reboot this idea of visiting the Coruscant Underworld. First of all, The Mandalorian has been great, but everyone is getting desert world fatigue at this point. I mean, how many more times are we going to go to Tatooine again? I mean, maybe there are some limitations with stagecraft tech. Maybe it's only convincing when portraying more minimalistic backgrounds that are kind of blurred out. Who knows? But if it can look good, there's no reason why they shouldn't go to Coruscant. It shouldn't add significantly more money to their budget. Dave Filoni was also the first Star Wars creator to bring the Coruscant Underworld to life in the Clone Wars series, and I'm sure there's a lot of desire to return back to that location. There's also the fact that Star Wars and Lucasfilm were both pretty cheap companies when it comes to reusing recycled content. They're just not willing to spend money on creating that stuff and just letting it go to waste. I mean, look at Dave Filoni's Rebel series. It's full of artwork from Ralph McQuarrie, the legendary artist who did a lot of the concept art for the original Star Wars film. The fact that George Lucas has 50 hours of Boba Fett related content in the Coruscant Underworld makes me believe that Disney almost has to recycle a few of these plot lines. It would just be a huge waste of money not to. Now, from a lore standpoint, it also makes a lot of sense for Coruscant to be a part of the conversation. With the collapse of the Empire and the rise of the New Republic, there's going to be a lot of chaos on Coruscant, and criminal enterprises will rise from the depths and take over. For one, after the defeat of the Empire, the New Republic does not move their capital to Coruscant. Instead, they move it to the homeworld of Mon Mothma, Chandrila. Moving the federal government away from Coruscant means that there is going to be less importance placed on Coruscant. This also means less resources will be devoted there. A large central government like the Empire would have also been a major employer and developer on the planet, so you can expect a lot of economic loss from this move. There was also quite a lot of fighting on Coruscant in the last few years of the Galactic Civil War. Masamida and his puppet government held out in the Federal District and basically lost control of the entire planet. And now with the defeat of the Empire, this whole district is going to be pretty damaged and probably abandoned. Coruscant during the height of the Republic's power and stability was already a pretty volatile mess. I mean, now with all of the changes that have occurred, it will be a complete chaos. You know how they say humanity has explored less of the ocean floor than the universe or the galaxy or something? Same thing with Coruscant. They don't know what's going on in the lower levels, and whatever it is, it should be stopped. Anyway, the criminal syndicates are going to do their best work in this kind of environment, and Boba Fett has a very close lineage to Coruscant. After attempting to kill several Jedi, he was arrested by the Republic and served time on Coruscant. While in prison, Boba Fett met and befriended many of the local bounty hunters and crime lords and made quite an impression with them. After leaving prison, Boba Fett would start his own bounty hunting syndicate based right out of the Coruscant Underworld and also Tatooine. When Quinlan Vos was looking for a side of interest, he would meet Boba Fett here in Coruscant. And now that Boba Fett is back in the game, he probably has a lot of contacts on Coruscant. And even though most syndicates are based in the Outer Rim territories, everyone from the Black Suns to the Hutts to the Pike Syndicate have a presence on Coruscant. It's not only located near the geographic center of the galaxy, it's also the center of many major trade routes, which means that Coruscant will remain a commercial and shipping hub for quite some time. If Boba Fett is going to be the godfather of some major criminal syndicate, it only makes sense for him to move his operation back to Coruscant. So guys, I obviously am very biased about this. I really want this to happen, but I think there are some really good reasons why this could happen. A lot of things are kind of moving into place. But let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. If you have any insight that I haven't really talked about concerning this issue. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. And as usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.